fence expert. Who's that guy in that orange shirt? Who must be the fence expert? It's almost time to talk about the fences. It's time to discuss operations and expenses. It's time, it's really time to elevate small businesses. It's time with Joe to drop his knowledge. It's relentless. This rhyme of mine is getting a bit ridiculous. So here we go. We're live with Joe. Enjoy the show.
What is up, Fence fam? So good to be back with you guys, virtually as it is, or as it were. So glad to be back with you guys again. Took a week off last week for a little bit of a personal weekend, personal vacay, a little weekender. Hope you guys are doing super well. Hope your businesses are doing super well. This is live, and live it's now August, at the end of August, early September. So depending on where you are in the country or in the world, your season might be, you might see the end from here. The end might be near. So if that's the case, I hope your year has been healthy and profitable. Appreciate you guys joining us live. If you are here live, drop a comment. Let us know you're here. Also, get your questions in early, because there is no telling where this conversation might take us. If you guys are listening to this as a podcast, thank you. You're listening to a live or a recorded version of a live conversation I host most every Saturday. And I say most every Saturday because it seems like lately it's been a little hit or miss. Next Saturday we are off again as we travel. We'll be at the West Coast Fence Show. But most every Saturday, we host a conversation live where I'll bring in industry experts and we'll just chat about their section of the industry. Today's guest, as you guys have read, is Caleb Stainless Steel Experts. If you are listening to the podcast, the team says it would be a huge help if you were to leave a review. Possibly 4 or 5 stars. That would be excellent. Let us know what you think about the podcast. It always helps, and it's a free way to help the channel out. Very much appreciated. And then if you want to tune in or if you want to participate in the live conversations, check us out on pretty much any Facebook platform or any video platform, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Actually, today we are LinkedIn list because there's an issue on LinkedIn side with the connection. Thank you, LinkedIn. But most every video platform you can find us on. So we would love to have you guys live in the conversation. As I said, Caleb would be our guest today. But before we bring up Caleb, I want to shout out the expert team, Caleb, Ashley, and the whole team. We're a huge fan. We've been customers longer than they've been sponsors because we truly believe in the product. It's a product we absolutely love working with. We'd worked with a lot of other stains that are common in the industry and never found one that we really landed at until we got a sample from Caleb Ashley and the team over at the Expert Professional Wood Care Products. It's the stain that doesn't stink, and it makes me feel safe and sound having my guys and our clients up against the stain on a day-to-day basis. Anyway, huge shout out to the Expert team. With all that being said, let's bring up the one and only Caleb Roth. Caleb, how are you, buddy?
Hey, man, doing great. How about yourself?
Doing well, doing so well. Thank you so much for being available on a Saturday.
Thank you for the great introduction. I really appreciate it.
No, it is well earned. It's well earned. You know, I mean, and I've told this story a lot. So, you know, returning viewers have heard this story about 100 times, but it's true that we had tried a lot of other stains and, you know, for whatever reason, they didn't land. Well, not for whatever reason. I'll tell you why, because you got a chemical smell out of it. And it's something I just didn't feel comfortable putting our guy, you know, we pre-dip. So I'm putting them in an enclosed space with this and then taking it out, putting customers and customers' pets and kids up against it. So anyway,
well, a lot of guys
sent us a sample out.
Yeah, I was going to sorry, I totally cut you off, but a lot of guys don't think about it. But let me highlight something. Your rubber gloves, if they ever melted off from your stain or swollen up, or your shoes, we used to use other stains too, and our shoes would just fall apart after about 6 to 8 weeks of using stain. And so it's a big deal. It's all those little, it builds up over time. You know, if you're using something like that on a daily basis and you're exposed to different chemicals that are in certain stains, it can really, you're going to pay for it long term. I got a lot of family members that were in the solvent-based car painting game, and they paid for it, man. And so I just hate to see anybody end up like that, because it's not good, you know. So,
well, I mean, it makes you wonder, like, just when you get that chemical smell. I mean, you're obviously smelling something, right?
Yep.
Something that's not natural, and for me, it was so. The way I like to run the business is I'll do the new thing for a while to figure out what the processes are and what the best use is of time and all that. So I'm sitting in an enclosed room, staining these boards. I'm like, oh, this doesn't make me feel great if I'm breathing this in. I mean, even with, you know, we would have the respirators because, well, at first we didn't. And then I got that smell. I was like, okay, this smells like danger. Let me put a respirator on. And the more I thought about it, you know, because I would come out of these rooms and my clothes would stink and I'd have to change clothes. And so it's like, what am I taking home with me here?
Man, that is so true, man. My truck used to smell, all my clothes smelled, and you just can't get it out. And some people say, oh, that smells like money. And I'm like, well,
okay.
It doesn't smell like money to me. So
yeah, it smells like problems. But
yeah.
So I tell you how I found you, Caleb, is someone had invited me to the free Facebook group you guys run. And you were in there showing videos of, hey, here's exactly how to apply it. Here's, you know, best use case. Here's some things to avoid, that sort of thing. And I was like, man, this guy, one, really cares about his product. He's wanting to make sure people know how to use it and all that. But he also really cares about the contractors that use it, because you're talking about, hey, here's some common, you know, because you guys are a staining company, here's some common things that we see go wrong. Here's how you fix them. Here's how you prevent them. I'd reached out and said, hey, can I get a sample? Can I buy, you know, or I said, can I buy a sample, or can I buy a smaller kit, and lo and behold, a sample just showed up at our office. I was like, okay, well, let's try this. First impression was I popped the lid. I was like, let's see what this one smells like. Oh, that's interesting.
It is interesting. It's a big surprise when you're used to it being the other way.
Yeah. But anyway, that was our impression. And I was like, you know what? If nothing else, it's a guy that cares running the company, and it's a product that I'm not worried about, interacting with on a daily basis in an enclosed environment. This seems like a pretty winning combination to me.
Well, I appreciate it, man.
That's our story.
Yeah. I remember teaching you, not necessarily teaching you, but just critiquing you a little bit on FaceTime.
Yeah, that was our
first job. That was fun.
Yep. That was our first job. Is I said, hey, here's some things we're seeing, and you're like, hey, can you FaceTime me right now? Yeah, can I FaceTime you? Yes, that would be great. And just a brief kind of showed you around. You're like, oh yeah. No, tell him just do this and this. And Scott was with me. He was staining it, and I said, hey, here's some feedback. He's like, okay, changed it. Beautiful. I mean, it was actually, that fence is right down the street, and it was a rent house that we used to own. That we owned at the time, and it still looks nice. And we'd restained it once because that was, gosh, I'm trying to think. That might have been
time.
Yeah, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Yeah, probably 8 to 10 years. It was a while ago. So we've restained it once since then, and then we sold it. So I don't have much control over how it gets treated, but it still looks nice. Nice, and it was your guys' favorite color, or the color that you talk about a lot, is pecan.
Yep.
It was a pecan on an Eastern
red
red cedar.
We like pecan so much. It's our most popular color. We even have that as a KPI. We can look at the sales of one color and know how the company's doing,
Really? Just
it's
by
kind
tracking
of a joke.
that color.
We have the pecan index. It's like a stock market thing. It's it's not the be all end all, but we can certainly look at it, and we can kind of get an idea what the economy's doing by looking at pecan.
No kidding. Well, that kind of leads into one of the questions I'd had was maybe an update. So I know pecan overall is best selling, but do you see, like, lately, have you seen any industry trends towards other colors or maybe color groups?
Yeah, so I mean, all your natural colors, pecans, chestnuts, cedar tones, walnuts, do really well. They're in the top, they're the top colors. But black, man, it was like number 9, number 10. Now it's 6, 7. Now I think it's the number 3rd or 4th color. Black is just really popular, and it's gaining steam.
I believe it. I mean, I think that's a trend in houses right now, and just exterior housing colors. There's a whole neighborhood that's going in around the corner from us, and it is all either white or
black
or there's like a dark blue color in there as well. I was trying to think about what other colors, but from the road they all look black, and then you get closer to them, you're like, oh, that's a really dark blue, I guess. I don't know.
We'll see how long that trend lasts. I don't know if it will last. It might be in 10 years everybody's painting their black house white, but it's kind of weird because you do see around here, you see houses, they're all either solid white or just solid black.
Isn't that something? It used to be just natural tones. Beige or tan or something like that with a brown trim.
All the big stain manufacturers always will put out a notice every year of their most popular stain color, and it's always like a beige or a gray, but it's not true. The number one color is like cedar tone worldwide. It's like a medium brown color. I mean, those colors, when you think stain, what do you think of? Those colors always perform really well.
That's it. I mean, the color's right over your shoulder. I mean, that's what you think of as of a pre-stained fence.
Yep.
I mean, that's in pecan on cedar. There's just not much better than that. It looks great wet, and then when it dries, it looks even better. So it's Now we use Eastern red cedar, so it looks a little different because Eastern red cedar is very, very like red heavy. I mean, you've seen it when it's freshly cut; it's purple.
Yeah,
and then it fades California to a red. Redwood. Yeah, but it fades really quickly, like in a matter of days.
Oh, California redwood will it will change colors from white. The sapwood will go from white to orange, or white to like a really dark yellow. And the red part will go from purple to red within 15 minutes of sun exposure. It's crazy.
Oh, no kidding. So it's really fast as well.
If you leave your boards stacked on the job and the sun gets on part of them and you put them up, you'll see the prints on them. It's crazy.
They're striped. Yep.
Yep.
So I'll tell you a funny story. Eastern Red Cedar, we did a fence for a guy, and we always show, we'll show different pictures. Here's some pictures of projects we've done because Eastern Red Cedar is still fairly unique in our market. A lot of guys are still using Western Red Cedar. So, but they're always brown, right? Because we always get by there a couple days after the job is done and we take the pictures.
Nice oranges and browns. And
yeah, very natural. Well, what happened? We did a job for a guy, and it was a whole yard. It was a big 600 footer or something. It was massive. And the guys get it up, and I get a phone call that no one wants. Like, hey, listen, guys did a great job. Really, really good guys.
But
there's just one thing. Like, oh, okay. All right. Well, what is it? He goes, I hate it. Oh, no. Okay. Well, why? Why do you hate it? He goes, it's purple. He goes, I'm looking at a picture. The brochure you gave me shows a brown cedar fence. This is purple. He goes, I will not accept it. I will not pay for it. You will replace all of this with a brown fence. I said, oh, okay. All right. I tell you what, it is Friday. I said, I tell you what, how about let's schedule a time to come out middle of next week and let me just look at this thing and see how it looks with you. He goes, okay, all right, but I'm not changing my mind. I'm like, oh, no, okay. But how's Wednesday for you? Wednesday's great. Well, Monday, get a call. He's like, hey, so the fence changed color. It is now what I thought it would look like. So you don't need to come by on Wednesday.
Checks in the mail.
Yep. I'm like, all right, note to self. That was a very good indicator for us that we need to talk about this. Like this thing's going to go up purple.
Yep, and that's a great segue into why we write SOPs or procedures. If you're building a sales team, there's you an SOP. Write it up.
Yep. Explain you need to talk to the customer that set expectations, right? Frustration is a result of unmet expectations. I don't know where I heard that, but it resonated with me. And so as long as we set expectations correctly, it will likely lead to less or no frustration. So that's one of the things we talk about. Like, hey, listen, and I kind of tell abbreviated version of that story. I said, I don't want you to be mad at me. I don't want you to call me, tell me you hate the fence when it's purple. Give it a couple days. It will turn brown after it's got some UV exposure on it. Depends if it's in the shade or if it's in full sun. But it will turn the natural cedar color you're thinking about in your mind and that you see on this pamphlet. Give it a few days. If you have any questions, call me. I'm always happy to come out. And that we've never had a call like that again of people that hated the fence because it was purple. But that is probably a good time to talk about setting proper expectations too.
Yep.
So, you guys probably get this call and we never got the call, but I could understand how there might be a thought of right after you stain, the color's always darker than it settles at. Yeah. Right. So as it dries, as it penetrates, as it sets the color, it always seems to be darker, obviously, because it's wet than when it dries. You guys ever get those calls very often that, hey, this color just isn't what I was expecting? Well,
you'll get those phone calls sometimes, particularly, usually the louder the color, like a redwood, a really bright red is going to do it the worst. But yeah, we like to set the expectation on that. We don't spend a whole lot of time on it unless we're into those wild colors, Sure. I think one thing though that you will get, and it's important to explain it, is because you can stain a deck on Monday and it's really bright, loud color, and then by the end of the week, it's soaked in, it's settled in, and it's a shade lighter, and people will call you and say, "Hey, the stain's already faded out," and and we go, "Well, actually, this is what it's supposed to look like. It's soaked in, it's took its time, and this is the way it's supposed to look. It'll stay like this." And
that makes sense.
That's good to just be aware of.
Hey guys, we're going to jump into the comments here in just a minute in depth, but I saw one pop up that is in this vein of conversation. So Dustin Hooten, what's up, Dustin? He's in my neck of the woods. Have you done dark black stain? How did the extra heat affect drying, warping of the wood? Do you guys see much difference?
No, not really. The black really doesn't fade as far as, black is black. So once you put the black on, it pretty much stays black. Now, if you've got a treated pine, like a ranch rail fence or something that's got a lot of sap in it, the darker colors will tend to make the fence get hotter, and sap could ooze out a little more certain times of the year. But as far as warping, cracking, and twisting, no, don't really see that because you've got all the oil in there. The oil is really, the stain color is just for looks. The oil is what actually does the protection inside the wood, holds everything together.
Yeah, and Dustin, so you might have had experience maybe with like a water-based that doesn't penetrate. Maybe, Caleb, I'm thinking that might, because if you trap the moisture in and then you dry it quickly by heating it
you'll
up,
get bad warping then.
Yeah.
Yeah. So oil lets water move in and out. It just slows it way down. And then it slows it down. So it slows it down a lot, almost to a crawl, but it still allows the wood to breathe in and out. When you put a film forming stain and it can't breathe in and out, that's where you wind up with, trapped moisture. And we know what happens if you get moisture trapped under your vinyl floor in your house. You get mold and things like that. And so no difference. It's about the same. You can think of, a fence post like a big, huge bundle of straws in your hand, so, it's constantly breathing in and out. And when you wrap that in plastic, it can't breathe anymore.
Yeah. And it probably depends on the type of material being used. Like you had referenced cedar versus like a treated pine.
Mm-hmm.
Also, so if we think about the reason wood materials warp, it typically is one side drying faster than the other.
Yep.
Predominantly. So if you use a penetrating oil-based stain, I mean, obviously Expert line is one of them. There's options, but if you use if it's a penetrating oil stain, that's when you get the breathability, right? That it dries more evenly. It could actually lead to less warping and twisting because it's allowing it to dry evenly rather than one side drying before the other. Is that on track?
Yeah. And so you think about this. If you were to take a sheet of paper on your back porch or take a sheet of paper, wet it down with water, and then put it on your back porch to dry in the sun. As it dries, it's going to crinkle up, and you know what I mean? It's going to fold, it changes, it warps, it kind of curls up. If you were to take that same sheet of paper dry and put it into oil and then set it on your porch and lay it out in the sun, it's going to just lay flat. And it's kind of the same principle. Just that oil stays in the wood and it keeps it wet, keeps it moist. And, it's not water moist, it's oil moist, but it still holds it together. So it makes a big difference.
And it lets that, and the breathing is the key point, right? It lets the moisture stay consistent throughout the product.
And I think all penetrating oil-based stains sometimes get compared to other products in an incorrect manner. A lot of water-based paints and stains, the only thing that they're there for is for the color to go on the fence or the deck or whatever and just stay there. And we're going to brag about our color lasts the longest. But if you have a beautiful color on a warped up, twisted up fence that looks like a snake, if you look down the top of the fence and it looks like this, what's the point, right? It looks terrible. And specifically if it starts to rot because it can't breathe. And so an oil-based stain, the pigment on the surface, that's more of a sacrificial layer to block the sun, keep the fence from turning gray. The oil itself is what protects the fence. And so the reason we do penetrating oil-based finishes is because they actually will preserve the wood, make the wood last longer. So when you build a fence, it's okay to stain it every 3, 4, 5 years, but you don't want to replace it every 7 years, So water-based stains are just you're still going to have that replacement factor. So the oil is really what will make the wood last longer. So, saying, hey, a penetrating oil-based stain only, it really needs restained every 4 years versus a water-based that might say 6 years. It's still a big difference. Color is not everything. So we need to remember that. There's a fence, it's poplar, that I drive by a lot, and Guardian Stain and Seal, which is based in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, stained it, and they stained it in 2018, and they used sable. And this was when we were first started. We were very new to making stain. It was our first year selling to the public. 2017 or 2018 was, and I delivered the stain out to this job site for them, dropped it off that morning, and the tops of the fence, the top rails, this is a ranch rail, 4-rail, were wet, from just dew, moisture. Yeah. And if you know anything about staining poplar, it's sort of a hardwood. And so it's a really fibrous hardwood, and it's very difficult to stain. it usually requires multiple light coats instead of one heavy coat. So anyways, I texted these guys and I said, hey, I dropped the stain off, but I sent them a picture. I said, but the top rails of this fence, the tops of each rail is wet. I wouldn't stain it till the afternoon. And I came by later that morning at like 10:30 and the fence was stained. They were gone. And I thought, oh, okay. But they did a beautiful job on it. And I drove by that fence yesterday, and there's some fading on the fence, still looks great. And on that same route, I drive by a bunch of other oil-based and water-based stains that are more film forming and that were stained 2-3 years after that fence, and there's nothing left. They look terrible. And so, it comes and goes, but sometimes that penetrating oil will really outlast a film former, but not always.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
well, I think
straight.
by and large.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I see your questions coming in. I'm actually going to jump to the top, say hello to a few people, and then we're going to work our way down through. We've got a lot of great stain questions, guys. Stick around for just a minute, and we'll jump down to them. We know this guy. Justin says, good morning from Hot Springs, South Dakota. Cheering on Queen Athena as she does another triathlon. Looking forward to gaining a couple nuggets. Welcome, Justin. Appreciate you tuning in.
I think Justin's probably got a couple nuggets he can share with us too, man. I really do.
Absolutely agree. So there's a reference down here in a little bit to Staining University, but I'll plug it right now. I mean, I know we're still a ways away, but talk about golden nuggets. Justin's one of the guys that I love to catch up with there at the shows. There's a handful. I don't want to start naming names because I'm going to leave somebody out, but by and large, the classes are important. The classes do provide value, but a lot of it's just rubbing shoulders with guys like Justin. And, if you have a question, they'll sit down with you. Justin will probably chat with you while he's cooking a steak and say, here's what's going on. Here's what I think, that sort of thing. Justin, always appreciate you being willing to share and cook some pretty great steaks.
It's that Nebraska beef.
That's right. That's right. Front Rock Fences, our friends from up north, says, good morning, Joe and Caleb. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Justin goes on to say, networking with local businesses with wooden exteriors on benefits of proper washing and staining with expert stain and seal products. Family vacation, business opportunities are always present. Well, Justin, I mean, check with your taxing professional, your accounting professional, but that sounds like maybe a business trip and less of a family personal vacation. Just check with them first, though.
Yep. Could be.
James Jordan says, good morning. Someone else we know from Staining University.
Sure.
Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Brian Fredrickson says, what's up? Happy Saturday, man. Caleb is the man. Good morning, Brian.
I am a man, but I'm not sure if I am the man.
Fair. Corey says, thank you for the temp fence videos. Looking forward to more on the topic. You're welcome, Corey.
Is that temporary fencing?
Yeah, so we've done a couple videos on temp fencing, and it seems to be getting good traction. So
I think you need to buy a powder coater, and you need to be the nationwide rent-a-fence with orange fence panels.
Oh, so I haven't gone that far down that road, but so I've been to a couple events in larger cities, concerts, where their temp fence is literally just a panel, so 1 3/8 galvanized welded with a shade cloth in the middle of it, or a windscreen, whatever you want to call it, that is then zip tied around and all that. There's no chain link in it. Wow. It's only this windscreen. Because if you think about it, like how many people are cutting a fence to get in, or temporary fence to get into the venue, it's usually just providing, some crowd control, some movement control, that sort of thing. And so I've had that thought for a little while. It's like, okay, the problem is then I bought a chain link weaving machine so we can weave wire ourselves. But there for a while, the thought was no wire and just orange windscreen in this. I
think chain link's always going to be king, man. I really do.
These are
silent monster that no one ever thinks about or sees, but I bet there's more chain link fence put in than anything else.
Oh yeah. Well, as a sector of the fencing industry, absolutely. So I'll go to these meetings, the Chain Link Fence Manufacturers Institute, and so they'll talk about reports on total production and industry percentage and all that. And Chain Link is a monster in the industry. Yep. I mean, think about it. So one of the meetings was talking about solar farms. And these municipal grade solar farms, there's a lady that came in, or she presented virtually. Her company just installs these solar farms and turns them over to municipalities. But I forget the number, but there was something, it was like 14 or 15,000 feet of perimeter fence on an average project of theirs. I mean, it is wild to think about. But yeah, think about how many solar projects alone are going on in the United States.
Yep.
Darren Pollen, good morning. Good morning from First Place Finishing in Ontario, Canada.
Good morning.
Good morning. We've got a really nice showing from our Canadian fence brethren.
Right, that's right.
Speaking of one, Front Rock Fences, driving now to stay in 100 foot of fence in the best flavor pecan or pecan. This question comes up here in just a minute. I don't know, Caleb, I'm pretty sure tasting it is not recommended. So maybe flavor might not be the right word
Yeah,
here.
that's a Canadian thing, I think.
Okay. Just don't
try this at home.
Yeah, don't consume it. Hasif wants to know, are you replying to comments? I am, actively.
Yes.
So now Hasif may have commented on other videos. So sometimes the guest and I just hit the ground running and we never come up for air for the first hour, and we don't get comments in. But today we are actively replying to comments. Absolutely. Brian says, that's what it's like when I get home from the cigar bar. So talking about clothes smelling, I close off in the garage before she lets me in. Yeah, so I get one step in from the garage. So our laundry room is right off the garage door.
Yeah.
So it's zoop, right into there. There's a change of clothes waiting for me right there on the dryer. So just all the clothes go in, new clothes go on before I'm allowed to enter the proper part of the house, the main house. I say the main house as this is like a plantation.
You guys are house broke, I'll admit. I
You're
just
not
do whatever
kidding.
I want at my house.
Oh, Hasif says, I got some questions. Hasif, we've got some answers, hopefully. Justin says, pecan has become Nebraska favorite color choice. Yeah. So we actually switched. We offer 3 colors. We offer a cedar. It used to be cedar, chestnut, and walnut as a light, medium, dark color option.
Mm-hmm.
So we do this. Now we just offer pecan as standard, but we can do cedar, walnut. Because we have the expert stain machine, we can offer what we call custom colors, which is really just anything other than pecan, because we sell so much of it, right? It's just when you show them these 3 options, pecan's the choice 9 times out of 10, or 8 times out of 10 maybe.
Yeah.
Brian's got a question about black. Does black hold up as good as natural color, or does it require faster or more maintenance?
I think, if you're talking about the actual color natural, black's going to definitely hold up longer than most colors that are branded or named natural. A natural color is generally just a very light tinted clear. Some people call it a toner. So, but if you're talking a pecan and you call that a natural color, they're going to be real similar. I think black pigment just is going to appear, even when black fades even when black, becomes worn, it just tends to look like it's there longer. If you paint a fence white, it looks bad in 2 years. If you paint a fence black, it looks bad in 6 years. And so I think, black, I think, is probably going to hold up really well on most projects.
So, Caleb, we haven't actually done any black, so I've got a few questions about it. So we've done gray, and so we're familiar with the additional coating that gray takes, because a lot of the browns.
Yeah. You're getting at whites and in anything, particularly whites or grays. When you take, we have a color chart. When you look at colors, these browns and things like that, they're going over something that's already sort of brown or yellow anyways. And so when it's really easy to change the color profile. When you're going to a gray, you have to take, a yellow pine fence, this is clear, and you've got to overpower it with this gray or a white or even a black. And that's just tough. You're having to overcome things. And so what usually happens is you can put a really light coat of gray stain on a fence and it'll look fine. But most people in their mind, they say, well, that's not what it should look like. It should look gray, like a paint. And same thing with whites and blacks and grays. And so typically what ends up happening when guys stain a black or a gray or or a white fence, is they stain it, and then they get on the first section of fence, and rather than staining the whole thing and saying, hey, I think it needs a second coat, they just try to get that painted look on the first panel. And so a lot of times guys could run short of stain, and so they find themselves moving forward ordering a lot more stain and using more stain for grays to get that desired look. And black can be that way as well. I think a good rule of thumb for whites, for clears, for whites and blacks and grays, is going to be just to go, if you're running 125 square feet a gallon, go add 20% to it. Go to 100 square feet a gallon and just use a bit more stain, and it's really going to look a lot better. If you have some lights and darks on a brown, you really don't notice it. But if you have lights and darks, heavy application and light application on a black, you see it. This wall beside of me has got one heavy coat of black on it, and it's black. But if you were to go light in a spot, it would stand out. So,
well, and that's a good point on light and dark pickets. So too, Caleb, is even if the fence is uncoated, especially with cedar, not necessarily with pine, you'll get light and dark boards in a given bundle of just natural cedar.
Yep, and that won't be you won't see that. When you go with a transparent pigment, it's got transparent pigments, transoxide pigmentation, which is I don't have a beer bottle in here, obviously, but if you hold a beer bottle up to the light, you can see through it. But a opaque pigment, like what's in a lot of grays and blacks, it's titanium dioxide. That's what you put in sunscreen that you rub on your skin. That's why I don't use sunscreen, but titanium dioxide is what gives you your opaqueness, and then you add your other colors to it. And so we wind up with black pigments, you just can't see through them. Grays and are the same way. And so you can overcome that light and darkness in the pigments, or with a black or gray or a white usually, but you have to make sure it's an even application.
Yep.
So you want to go heavy.
Because you could end up, if it's not heavy enough, you could end up just accenting that or accentuating.
Accentuating.
I don't know. Yeah, that's the word we're going
Sensuous,
for.
Joe.
James Jordan says pecan is number 1 in North Mississippi. Black is number 2.
Yeah, black's bumping number 2, number 3 spot. It's
well, because a lot of these white houses, they're all black trim, and so they don't want any natural color. They want black to match the black trim. I'm different.
If I had a white or black house, I want the wood to pop. I want that big, that beautiful color to pop out against the black, nice like accent. You see over my shoulder here. But here's a great example. You've got it on white and on black, and so you can see it looks good on both, and it really pops.
Absolutely. Corey says, Caleb, since you're in the South, do you sell more pecan stain or pecan stain?
I think in our office it's called pecan, but just where we're located. But if you were to go in any direction 1 mile from our office, you'll find old timers that call it pecan pie. You'll find people that call it pecan, and pecan, pecan. It just depends where you're from. I really don't know what the actual proper way to say it is. I don't know where the word originates from. If we were to look it up and figure out where that word comes from, it's probably an Indian word. It's pecan trees, I think, are native to here. So,
so that's the thing Indian, is we do a bit of both. I'll call it pecan, but it's pecan pie. I don't know what same word.
It depends on if you're talking to your granny or the mailman. It depends on who you're talking to, right?
That's true. That's true. Very true. All right, Craig Eubanks. Good morning, gentlemen. Hope all is well. Good morning, Craig. You guys can catch Craig's show every Friday. It's Fence Guy Friday. I always want to say Ask a Fence Guy Friday. It's Fence Guy Friday over on Craig Eubanks' channel, Eubanks Fencing. Check that show out for sure. I think Craig is up to some good content. He's a good guy and I think he's worthy of supporting. So check him out on Friday afternoons.
Good morning.
Tammy's got a great point. Color is all about the light. So it'll look completely different based on the light available, time of day, cloudiness, etc. It will also look very different on the type of wood and underlying tones. I think that's all great points.
What she said. That's right.
Same. No, but a pecan fence, whatever, will look very different in the same yard on a cloudy day or on a full sun day, or first thing in the morning versus midday, just depending on what the sun exposure is in the yard.
Well, here is a nugget for someone who's never been here, and then all the experienced stain guys will nod in agreement here. If we have a fence in a backyard and you have a left side and a right side, and of course the back, and the sun is shining across the fence this way, well, this side of the fence, whatever side the sun is on, we'll say, my hand, you can see this light's on my hand here. Well, the back side of my hand is dark because there's no light hitting it. And so it's kind of like the dark side of the moon, right? You can have a customer look in their backyard at the fence you just stained, and the fence across from them is a very nice bright color. The fence on the right side is a very nice bright color, but the fence on the left is 3 shades darker, and they can't figure it out. And they say, no, it's a different color. And then you got to explain to them that actually the sun is casting, this certain way, and there's a shadow on this fence, and this fence over here is in direct sunlight. So that's something to be mindful of if you're a stain contractor. And some customers immediately get it, and then there's some customers that will argue with you until the sun goes down or until the sun comes up, in the morning. So that's just something to be mindful of. If they're saying, hey, these two lines are totally different, but they're actually not, and you use the same stain, then something to look at. Make sure it's not a sun issue.
Yep, it's all about light exposure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yep. I had a lady once, man. She was ready to fight over it.
She just knew she was right. All right, Dustin said, I've not done much wood at all. Was just curious about the effect of the black with extra heat. Thanks for answering. Great example of the paper and the oil.
Yeah,
Dustin.
The paper and the oil is actually a great example for. That's a good one. But I wouldn't do black on anything you're going to sit on or walk on. It's just going to be too hot, Yeah. And I think even some like colors like walnut or something, if it's a really high exposure area to heat and sun, and you got little kids walking barefooted, it's going to get hot. So just be mindful of that.
I'll tell you what. So at our community pool, they just built like a lazy river thing, and they've got a bridge over it into the middle, like picnic area or whatever. They did composite, but it's a color very much like pecan, just a nice medium orange, medium brown. But there are signs on that say, do not walk barefoot across this bridge. You will blister your feet or something, version of that.
Yeah, there's that.
This is hot.
There's thermal mass there with that dark color. So it's like an oven.
I walked across it in flip-flops. My flip-flops felt a lot softer on the other end of it. I was like, man, the heat coming off of this thing. And it was like 11 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't like 3 in the afternoon or anything. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a dark color, but just be cognizant of that the darker you get, the more heat absorption you're going to get out of it.
But wood will not, it's not a thermal, there's no thermal mass there with wood like there is with that. So that stuff can get really hot.
I can't imagine, and I mean, we're in late August, so July, mid to late July is probably peak heat season. July was a month where we're having triple-digit days.
Yeah, it was really hot in July. It was normally August is our hot month, but July was just off the charts this year.
It was awful.
I don't know that it was necessarily off the charts. It just felt hot. It just really felt hot.
Well, it was prolonged. For us, it was prolonged, right? If it's a day or two triple digits, all right, you just bear down on it and you get through it. But man, if it's a week or a week and a half of triple digits, you can't. Yep. It's not as easy to get through. Brian has a point. You need to go to Caleb Staining University. I'm obsessed with figuring out how to get into the staining business after attending his university. Absolutely agreed. As we talked about earlier, great classes, obviously, but then also the networking that happens in between classes after hours at the event. The value there is tremendous, especially when, Caleb, what is the cost of an attendance ticket at Staining University?
Just got to get up and get there, man. We'll let you in free.
Yep. So compared to, the ROI is infinite. It's
what you make it, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you, what are you going to do with it, right? If you can read 1,000 books, if you don't do anything with it, wasting your time.
Yeah. Great point. We probably covered this, but I want to bring it up. Tammy asked, what's your best advice for stainers to set the best color expectation with the customer? Actually, we saw this question come up in the Facebook group last week, maybe, or
I think we see most contractors that have been in it for a while. They first start out with things like this sheet and fan decks, small wooden samples. Some guys will make their own wooden samples, and that usually doesn't go well because a lot of times they'll buy a brand new smooth deck board that has mill glaze and the color won't represent right like it would be on the customer's deck. But once guys have been in it a little while, we tend to see photos, job photos. If somebody says, I really like pecan, but I really like mahogany, and I just don't know which one I want, the best advice would be, hey, here's 6 pictures of fences we did like yours in pecan, and here's 6 that we did in mahogany. Or if you want to steer them, you could say, I only have 2 photos of mahogany because it's not nearly as popular. But here it is in full sun, and here it is in shade. This is kind of what you can expect. Every piece of wood's different, and it will look different on your fence. But here's a general idea of what this looks like on fencing. That's generally it. And then as far as setting the expectation, I think like the boards over my shoulder here, everything's backwards on camera, but like the boards over my shoulder, they're a uniform color. If you do the application proper, you should have even color, and you're going to see the accentuation of the wood grain, but you shouldn't see lights and darks based on how heavy the stain was applied. So if you do your job and you show those good pictures, usually you will be in good shape. And if you got a customer that's picky, I'm going to talk to my California people here because we get this call a lot from California. They say, hey, we stain the fence a transparent color, and these boards look different, and we're not going to pay. They're not going to pay me. What do I do? And I say, well, do you have pictures of what it looked like before you stained it? Yeah. And there's pictures, and the boards look different before it was stained. And so So I think it's all about that expectation, like Tammy asked here, and saying, hey, if you're going to do this natural color, all of these boards, like the boards over your shoulder, different. If we stained over that with a clear or transparent or even a semi-transparent, they're still going to look different. And so just being able to have that confidence with the customer and say, hey, it's going to look different. It looks different now. Stains are going to highlight the beauty of your wood, but they're also going to highlight the ugly of your wood. So if you've got ugly wood here, it's going to highlight it. So if the boards are not looking so great, maybe that's time to talk about a semi-solid stain that would do a little better job. Like this black's a semi-solid. Whoops, everything's backwards. This black's a semi-solid. So yeah, that's what I would do. But I think the number one thing is confidence. And once your customer does, they select the color that they want based off of photos, get them to sign off on it. We just don't have, people, they pick their color and that's it. But I still hear a lot of contractors have that issue. And I think most of the time it comes to confidence. So they show up to the customer's house. Painters are particularly bad about this because in their world, people are a lot more picky about the color they paint their kitchen. If they say, I want yellow, and then you go paint the kitchen yellow and they don't like it, they got a problem. But with stain, you just show up, and if they question the color and they've chose the color, if they say, well, that looks a little darker than I thought it would be, we just say, nope, that's exactly the way it's supposed to look. That is what pecan looks like on 1,000 fences. It's perfect. And usually when you have that confidence, they'll say, oh, okay, well, I like it. But if you show up and you say, let me put a little bit on the fence to make sure you like it. Are you sure you like it? We can change the color. If you start out like that, you're giving them permission to change their mind. And so I think confidence, you just, they've signed off. We've showed you colors. You know what to expect. And this is exactly the way it's supposed to look. Combine that with no way, you just don't want to verbally let them backtrack on you, because they will, if you give them opportunity.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's not to say that if we had a major problem, we wouldn't do the right thing and take care of the customer if it was just a major thing. But you just don't want to, and you just don't want to open the door for that with your, you can actually funnel people into that. And if you appear to be lacking confidence or worried about the color, it's going to make the customer worry, and they're going to go, well, maybe I don't, he seems a little scared about this color. Maybe I should be scared too. Maybe we did make the wrong decision. And so I just like to really reinforce the good decision that they made, and if they picked a color that's not going to work, you should say, your fence is really old. We don't need to do cedar tone on it. Let's go with a sable or chocolate brown. It's going to cover it up a lot better. You need to have that experience too, and guide them properly, but have confidence.
Yeah. So what I'll do in the yard is talking about light and dark boards, right? And I'll say, we only do cedar pickets. We don't do pine pickets. So we're talking about
elitist.
Well, it's a market thing. There's still guys, I guess, that do pine, but we're able to upsell into cedar.
That's okay. We're in a pine market, but we sell cedar. So
yeah. So what I'll do is in the backyard, I'll say, now let's look at all the boards. So in this back, how many boards do you think we have in this back line? And say, okay, so maybe it's 100 boards, maybe it's 150 boards. So I'm seeing something like 20 or 30 different shades of brown here. Is that kind of what you see? Different. Some are light, some are dark, some are medium light, some are medium dark. Yeah. Okay. So just so we're clear, as what you were saying is once we apply this stain, it's actually going to highlight that. So it's going to make each individual board seem even more individual. And so we're going to end up with some light, some dark, some medium light, some medium dark. And we're fine. We're good with that, right? I just want to set proper expectations here. And once they get to looking at the boards, I want to call it out beforehand that there's out of 150 boards, there's 80 different shades, so that at the end of this, that little nugget is in their mind. So when they're looking at it, they're like, huh, yeah, no kidding. There are about 80 different shades of brown in this 150 boards or something.
Like snowflake, man. No fence picket is the same.
True. It's about setting expectations, right? Yeah. Just that, hey, you will see a variety of different shades on your fence when we're done. They're all going to be.
Setting expectations is probably the main way that I am no longer selling stain jobs on a regular basis. And so, but if I look back at how I sold, I would just set every expectation up front with the customer. And I could do this quickly. I'm out of practice, so I may appear rusty here. But basically, I would go over the entire quote. I would talk about our process very quickly. The customer doesn't need 100 details. They just need to know we're going to show up. When you call a plumber, you expect him to know how to do his job. You don't ask him how to put the toilet in. So right. I would just go over all the details, tell them, we're going to send a crew out. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We'll be there for this amount of time. The color, is going to be very bright at first. It's going to take 3 or 4 days, maybe a week to settle in. And we could do this. I might explain the cleaning process and the drying time if that.
Oh, we appear to have lost Caleb. All right. Well, we will keep an eye on that and see. Hope everything's all right there. You don't see him on your end, Mark, do you, at all? His internet's gone. All right. We'll rejoin with Caleb as he's available. Let me click through here and at least talk about my answers to your questions. Oh, wait. Here we go.
Cell phone. All right.
Hello, Caleb.
Something died, but I'm back. We'll move the microphone out and you may get
right.
Back. But anyways, I would go over that process with the customer. And then at the end of that quick, here's our process, I would say, and then we take an approval signature on the quote. We do need a signature or an initial beside the color. We take a 50% deposit down. It's going to take us 2 weeks or 3 weeks to get there. And we can do it on the 17th or the 22nd of November. Which one of those dates would you prefer? Or would you like to go ahead and get this scheduled? I would always ask a closing question, and I've laid everything out. So I've set the entire expectation and up front by just simply explaining the process, and then I'm confident in it. And that's the way I sold stain.
That's it. Now, and so you'll give them an estimated date that you'll be there, November 17th or 22nd.
Absolutely, man. Okay. Yeah, for sure. Because what's I think anytime you're getting new cabinets or countertops or a fence built or roof, when can you do it? I mean, right? Yeah. I think, and some people have already bought it in their mind before they call you. Like if you buy a puppy and you're calling a fence guy, you've already bought the fence in your mind. And so all you need to know is how much is it going to cost and when can you do it? And I hope this isn't painful.
Yeah,
So,
right.
I like putting the dates in there for sure.
So with weather, so what we had found, and I mean, you talk to 10 guys, you get 10 answers. We usually give them a week, the week of November 15th, whatever the Monday is, right? The week of November 15th, the week of November, whatever, 11th, or not 11th, but you get it, like the week of X.
For sure.
So that hopefully, I mean, even if weather comes up between now and then, there's a good chance we'll be there that week. Or at least we can communicate, say, hey, you know, you're seeing the same rain in your yard I'm seeing, so we're going to need to bump it a week, or we're actually running ahead of schedule. Would you mind if we came early? How often do you hear no to that answer?
Oh yeah,
I could bump you up.
I like doing the week too. I think that's a better way to do it.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, well, it's each their own too. It's how you set the expectations, right? I'll give you the date, but just so we're clear, we're probably going to get weather between now and then. I'm giving you a date, but it's a flexible day. I'll communicate with you closer to time when we confirm that date or something like that.
Well, and like I said, I'm rusty. I think actually going with the week is what I most likely used to do. That sounds very much like home to me. So
okay, there you go.
All this technology and it crashed on me, man. So I'm back to the hard to beat the iPhone.
It happens.
Yeah.
Craig says we're going to be trying out the fence armor brush. Any tips for the first time applying on site?
Yeah, man, I got some great tips for you. That's a cool brush. I don't have one in here. Let me check to see. Nope, don't have one. So this works with any brush, but if you're back brushing a fence with it, that's fine. But if you're doing a deck or something, usually if you're back brushing a fence, you're not going to have much stain in the brush. You're going to have the straight pole in it, and you're just going to quickly back brush. But if you're doing a deck, you're going to use most of the time, unless you're spraying, I like to use the brush to get the stain from the bucket to the deck. And so let's just pretend that my hand here is the bristles on the brush. When you dip the brush in and you pick it straight up, all the stain's going to fall out. If you turn the brush sideways, dip it in, and then you turn it sideways, it will not drip. And so you can dip, turn it sideways, and then put it on the deck, and now you can move that stain around. And if you get drips on the deck, it's not too big of a deal, at least with the stain that we're talking about right there. You just want to spread those out with a dry brush every 2 or 3 minutes. You know, if you drip everywhere, it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a great brush. I mean, I did a deck. I did some training about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and we did a huge deck with benches and everything. We did the whole thing with that brush. I even cut everything in with it, you know, right up next to a vinyl house. We didn't mask it. You just use that brush, and I like to, you know, the bristles are straight down, but if you apply pressure, your bristles will kind of flatten out, and I can just use that edge to pull a line all the way down.
To cut right in.
Great brush. I don't think I would use it to cut in a privacy fence with. It's just a little much. But yeah, it's a good brush, man. We use them.
Love it. Corey's got a question. What do you tell a customer who has a gray cedar shingle home who gets a new cedar fence but wants it to match color-wise but preserve it? Would you wait a year to stain?
Well, you know, cedar shakes tend to lift and curl when they get old. So instead of being, you know, these shakes lay on top of one another, and if it curls up, now we have a problem. And so people who own roofs made of shakes or siding made of shakes, it's important that you oil them. And oil, just like if you had a curled up piece of paper and you dripped it in oil, gravity is then going to lay it back flat. So you can restore shakes by just simply cleaning them and oiling them. And so the first thing I would do is ask the customer, do you want it to be gray, or do you want it to match the fence? Do you want the fence to match the shakes, or do you want the shakes to match the fence? And so if you figure that out, you know, it'll help you. If they want them, you know, they might want you to stain, you know, to clean the shakes and then stain them back gray to just get that oil in them. And so you could always stain the fence a gray color to match, you know. So it just really depends on what they want. But gray shakes are beautiful. So are cedar colored shakes. They're beautiful. The Cape Cod gray is a really popular color up in Cape Cod, and everybody has cedar shakes in Cape Cod. So that's what that gray was kind of designed for. So I think if you were to look at that Cape Cod gray color, or you wanted to match, it's kind of right there. That would give you.
As he's available. Let me click through here and.
I think my computer all kicked back up.
Yeah, here, let me.
Hey, look, I'm live again.
All right, are you there? Whoop. So, yeah. Yeah. All right.
All right. We're back
There
live.
we are.
Okay.
Technology is fantastic when it works. Probably bring that mic to you, bud.
Yeah. There we go. All right. Well, it just come back alive. How about that?
There you go. So switch your audio source to that mic. Right now, I think it's on your computer. You guys are getting a behind the scenes look on what we do when we set up the show.
Yep.
Good, because I tell you what, I'll tell myself. So earlier we couldn't quite figure out audio issue. Well, I'm wearing earbud, whatever these things are, AirPods, and the mic was coming in off the AirPods instead of on the mic. So it's a constant struggle here for sure.
All right, Joe. Can you hear
Dustin
me?
says, yeah, you sound good.
All right, good.
Dustin says, I'm not actually in the industry. I just know Joe and enjoy learning. Well, Dustin, you're in the fencing industry. I've seen a fair amount of fence you've done. It looks really nice. So Dustin's on the welded side, welded steel side of the fencing industry. But I tell you what, fencing gates look pretty sharp. So actually, I drive by one of yours. I believe I saw some pictures on social. One of yours over on Sunshine. Drive by it every day, twice a day. Rick Nelson says, checking in. I appreciate you guys. Rick Nelson, American Wood Stain in the Dallas-Fort Worth market.
Rick, hope you're doing well. Long time no see. Great name for a company. Hopefully you've retired from your regular job and you're just staying in full time, but we'll see.
There you go. Brian says, chain link is like 90% of their business. Yeah, chain link, it depends on the market. And it depends on residential versus commercial, right? Residential, we hardly do any chain link, but on the commercial side, it's predominantly, 90% probably sounds right on a commercial side of a business that does chain link fence.
Yep.
Uh-oh. Just joined. Bam here. Hello, Bam.
Bam, good morning.
Appreciate you joining. I saw, well, let me scan here real quick. What's that?
Bam's going to be in Reno next week.
That's what I was going to say. I just saw the social post on it.
Yeah.
Let me say hello to
Smith
a few.
And Michael Taylor, 2 mics.
Yeah. Guys, I'm going to say hello really quick. Oh, we're already at an hour. I'm going to say hello really quick, but then I do want to talk about the shows that are coming up, that sort of thing. Corey says, I have a large Western Red Cedar picnic table. The top slab is 30 to 36 inches wide, 2-inch thick, and 12 feet long. I love it, except for they used Minwax Helmsman urethane. What should it be refinished with?
First of all, I'm extremely jealous that where you live, you have 30 to 36 inch wide, 2-inch thick slabs, 12 feet long of Western Red Cedar. I'm upset about that because we don't have that around here. How cool is that? But if it were mine and I was putting it inside, I guess that's the question: is this inside or outside? If it's inside, I've got a table that we did, and it's got an oil finish on it. I think it's called Osmo oil, and it's just you rub it on, and it's a drying oil. If you want to leave it natural, then you would just put the oil straight on. If you wanted to stain it, you would stain it first. But if it's an exterior thing, Helmsman Spar varnish is kind of the gold standard for cedar, at least where we live. You can put it on in any finish. You can get a flat or a matte, a satin, a semi-gloss, and a gloss, and you can build it or not build it. So the cool thing about that is a lot of times we'll recommend this if people stain their picnic table with our stain. A lot of guys tend to really want to impress you by using a lot of stain to do a really good job. And that's great. But if you're sitting on this picnic table with your Easter dress on, you could get stain on you. So we just recommend one really light coat of Hellman Spar varnish. Comes in a green can. I don't know if that's different than the urethane. I know varnish is could be different, but even the furniture in my office, I used Hellman for that. But all you do is you put a light coat on it. If you want it to just dry it and just leave the stain finish there, but just make it just dry so you don't ever have to worry about pigment transfer, you would just do a flat finish, one coat, and you won't even be able to tell it's there because it's just going to penetrate right in. It's going to soak up and you'll never know it's there. Or you can build it up. If you want it to look like an inch of glass on top, go with the gloss and put 6, 8, 10 coats on there. That's what they do around here. So that's what I would do. And you should be able to, with urethane, I'm not sure on the urethane, but if it's like the oil-based stuff, then you can probably strip it really easy without having to sand too much. You know, you don't want to burn that top down. You know, you don't want to thin it. So, but yeah, Helmsman's the brand. Looks like Minwax bought them out. Apparently, I didn't realize that.
Absolutely. There you go. Brian says, what a great standing podcast name, The Dark Side of the Fence. That's pretty good. Pretty good.
We'll have that .com in just a little bit.
R&R Computer says, do it yourself if you can, then complain to nobody. It's true. Here we go. Kenny Dugan says, good morning, guys. Late as usual. Ribs are smoking. Lathe is spinning. Football in an hour. Fall is on the way. That's it.
Fall's a long way off, man. We got lots of time left. Don't bring it on too quick.
Depends what part of the country or what part of the world you're in, yep. I guess. Which he's out in Texas. Kenny's in Texas. Does Texas get fall? I don't know. Or maybe it's they don't get winter. I think that's it. It just goes into a perpetual fall and then goes right into spring.
Hey, if Dallas gets a winter, we're all in trouble because everything. You remember when they got that snow?
I was going to say, yep.
All the prices on everything went through the roof.
Well, it shut Dallas down for a week or so. Like it was all over the news just about they got that freak winter storm. But Josh Rand, what's up, Josh? Woo! Aloha, friends.
We were talking about him winning the post hole digger contest yesterday, and everybody was talking about all the young guys, and I said, I've never seen Josh Rand work. But I'm looking at this guy, and I've been around guys that are tough my whole life, and I said Josh is going to win that, and he did. He won it. So that was great. Thank you for pulling through for me there, Josh.
Believe Josh is up in Alaska building. Last I saw, building a drying shed.
Yeah, man, that's ridiculous. He gets to go up there, right?
I was jealous. I mean, just watching that plane trip, like, oh, that
probably
would be
need
so
to.
great.
Take me next time so we can pre-stain all that stuff.
Bingo.
Help you do that.
Bingo. Absolutely.
I'll carry my weight.
Fern Rock Fence says the fence armor brush works great for decks or fences. It holds the stain really well. There you go. Rick, this is probably to the retirement comment. Not yet. I'm sure. I am trying to get. I sure am trying to get there. Working the plan. Keep up the great work. All right, Shane Cat. What's up, Shane? What's up, gents?
Morning,
Hello,
sir.
Shane. Good to see you here. Kenny says we consider anything 80s and below fall, which, I mean, right now we're sitting at 77 here in Missouri, so maybe by that definition we're already in fall.
Probably 100 here.
The cool front hasn't gotten to you yet. It came in here overnight, so it'll be to you later on.
87.
87. It's coming. It's coming. Yesterday was 90, so it's on its way to you.
We have a 50% chance of rain this afternoon for about 3 hours.
Yep, that's it coming through. So it rained here yesterday afternoon, and then right behind it, it went from 90 to like 80, 82, 83, and then down into the 70s overnight. So, and that concludes Weather Talk on the Fence Expert Podcast. So, Caleb, we're talking about shows coming up. We're getting into show season. We've got West Coast Fence Show next week. Hard to believe that's here. Week after, we've got Fence Show. Brian Frederickson is in the chat. We'll be, well, I won't be, but you guys will be at that show the week after West Coast Fence Show.
Yep.
So you guys are dividing and conquering, sounds like.
No, we're hitting them all, man.
No, but I mean, Bam's going to be at West Coast, and then you and Ashley are going to be at Fin Show.
Oh man, don't count Bam out. He's in it for the
No.
count, man. He's doing them all.
Oh, he's doing them all. Okay, all right, all
He's
right.
doing them all.
I was
man.
just going off the social post.
Yeah, he's going to do them all. He will be at he'll be at the Finch show too. He's
Okay,
doing a
okay.
on Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day the demo day is. He's doing a really cool demo for pre-stain machines, so that'd be cool.
Nice. Very good. Very good. Very good. But these shows are coming up right around the corner, so you guys are going to be at each of those. The question I've got, I think would be interesting to talk about real quick, is from a vendor's perspective, how do you think fence contractors? So you're on both sides of the fence. Hello. What advice would you give to someone that maybe hasn't been to one of these shows, or maybe has been to a show or two but hasn't really figured out the best way to get through a show with just maximum efficiency of seeing everyone, gathering information, and having something to take back to the office?
I think shows can, some people never change, right? But if you go to the show and you have an open mind, it's definitely a great place to see a lot of things that you can bring into your company and implement. It's a great place to see a lot of things that you're never, ever going to implement or use in your company also. But I think one of the most powerful things about going to shows, particularly Standing University or Fence Techs and Fence shows, is that your crews, a lot of times you may be the only fence crew in town, or you may just work by yourself. You're not working along beside other fence crews. And so I think what it does is by taking your team to a show, it lets them know that they're not on an island. There's other people that build fence. There's other people that stain fence. There's other people that are in electrical or whatever field you're in. And it just lets them know, hey, we're not alone. There's other people doing this. I make more money than a lot of these people, and those guys over there make more money than me. It lets them know, that we're in this. We're actually in an industry, and I think that's important. A lot of the public utility companies and a lot of the more, I don't want to say more established trades, but a lot of the big, more unionized type trades that are just, have more money, gas, oil, electric, things like that. They tend to know that they're a part of something much bigger because it just the way that those things have been structured. So getting your team up there and letting them know they're not alone, I think is important. And then I think finding people you can do business with, man. A lot of people come to these shows to party. And do no telling what. I think that's a waste of time. I think you got to go, when you go to the show, you're going there to make, to improve your situation. And so if you go to the show, find out who you need to know, meet with them, talk to them, have a backbone, go stick your hand out to somebody that maybe you're uncomfortable meeting, but you think that this person can help you by influence, or maybe they have a product that you need, or maybe you have a product that they need. You just got to have the willingness to go stick your hand out and reach those people and make it happen.
Absolutely. The plan I try to implement, and it rarely works, but I always try it, is to crew, because it's usually the show will be open. It depends on the show, but it's usually a half day, full day, half day.
Yep.
If in that configuration, typically that first half day, I try to kind of breeze through the whole show, make a note of who's there, say hello to a few people, but then know, hey, tomorrow, my full day, I want to stop by, see this person, this person, this person, where we've got a bunch of time where we can actually have conversations, and then hold that second half day, that last day, as a reserve for, any conversations that last longer, or if I want to follow up on a conversation. That's what I mean to do. What I end up doing is I get there and I have about 2 conversations, and then they're asking everyone to leave the show. But the best thing I could say is get a hold of the show floor diagram as quickly as you can. Some of them are out right now. Maybe not with all the vendors set, but get a hold of a show floor diagram so you can familiarize yourself with who's in what booth, where they're at, and kind of have a plan of attack. These show floors are not small. These show floors are massive. So where if you're trying to walk across to see people across the floor from each other, you could spend half a day just walking back and forth. Whereas if you start at one side, move your way across, maybe you're a little bit more efficient with your time.
I'm gonna lose you again in a minute. Probably. I see my problem. It's a battery problem. I guess I'm pulling
Uh-oh.
more. I'm pulling more juice out than I'm putting in, so I may go off again. But
That's okay.
you know, a lot of the deals are made at night.
Yeah.
You know, the networking is done in the evenings and the nights, and so I just don't want to ever be the guy that a vendor can take me out and. I, a lot of vendors, they have people on staff that their job is to get people drunk, get them drunk, and get their business. And I think when you do that, that you're missing a lot of opportunity because you can't remember things. You say things maybe you shouldn't say. So for me, I think it's good to keep your head screwed on straight and go actually spend time with the people you need to work with. And I particularly don't want to work with anybody who's just solely out there trying to do that type of stuff. So
Sure.
I think, and that's very much an exception to the rule, but it does exist. And I think we've all seen it. So I would just try to stay clear of that, not fall victim to that.
Yeah,
And
I think
use
it's
the
good to
nights
keep
for
in
your
mind.
benefit, man. How many times are we sitting around in the evenings and at night with somebody either learning or networking? Man, find a guy with gray hair that will talk to you and just
Yeah.
sit down and listen. Right.
Well, that's the thing is you gotta keep in mind that these are business trips, right? And I think too many people try to lump them with a vacation, and the whole thing ends up turning into a vacation. And then you've only got a finite amount of time. Like if we're talking about a fence tech, you've got a half day, a full day, a half day. Well, if you go tear the town down one night, you're going to miss that first half of the full day.
Oh,
Well,
you
now
see
all
it
of a sudden,
every year. You see it. All these
yeah,
guys, especially sales reps, all these sales reps are like, "Oh, we stayed up too late last night, and we did." You know, it's like, come on, guys, man, we're here to be pros. So that's
yeah,
the talk I think you give your team is say, "Hey, we're here to be professionals. We're here to represent ourselves in our industry. Let's go do this right." And I don't want to hear about anybody getting drunk. I don't want to hear about anybody starting fights. Let's go do
yeah,
what we came here to do because we got a family back at home who's dependent on us. So I
yeah.
think if
Well,
you
that's
go into
it.
it with that mindset, man, you can come out a winner.
Yeah, by all means, go on vacation some other time.
Yep.
Like, and just go have a great time and check out. I mean, I firmly believe you need that. You got to check out to really perform at a high level, but this is not that time, right? This is a time where we've got everyone from the industry in one town to where you can interact, you can meet somebody new, you can reintroduce yourself to someone that you'd like to stay in contact with. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. That you got to understand that this is work time. This is not in the evenings. There's so much value there that you would miss if you go. At the South Point show or at the Finch show at South Point, you heard about guys go, as soon as the show's over or before it was over in the evening, we're going off to Vegas to see this show or that show or go to this event or that event. And then they come dragging in halfway through the next day. It's like, okay, so you missed all the networking that night and you missed all of everything the first half of the day. I mean, you missed networking in the morning before the thing
Yeah.
opened. You tend to bump into people grabbing coffee or bagels or whatever you do in the morning. You missed the first half of the show. Now you're there the second half, which is the busiest half. So I don't know.
And you're
You
telling
gotta,
everybody your condition as well. And they sense it on you. They smell it on you. They see it and they go, oh, that's the kind of guy he is. Okay. All right. No
yeah.
worries.
It kind of shows how dedicated you are.
Yeah.
And some people are maybe they're in the stage of life where they're getting ready to exit, and I don't know, but I'd say the majority of
Doesn't
us are
matter to
not
me.
in that.
Yeah. I'm all for
Yeah,
fun, but
yeah,
we're going to operate. We're going to operate like a unit at the show.
yeah, yeah. You go on vacation for fun. This isn't a vacation, anyway. So after that, we've got on the AFA calendar. After these two shows, we've got Fencing University, AFA University coming up in November. It's going to be in Tulsa, Oklahoma this year, so it's right down the road.
Yeah. Awesome.
We're going to be there.
We would love the ability to teach some staining classes there at that. If anybody from the AFA is listening, we're arms wide open and would love to get in there and get that done either on pre-staining or staining in the field or bidding, quoting, whatever. Happy to help.
Absolutely. Then, so after November, you get into holiday season a little bit. So nothing really in the month of December that I know about. And then we jump straight into Fence Tech and then Stadium University, typically there in February as well.
Yeah, it's growing, man. It's that time of year. It's getting it used to be such a narrow season. It's getting wider and wider, the show season, it seems like. And so,
Yeah.
and there's even other industry shows that we're going to be doing over the next 12 months that, man, we can do a show every weekend or every week if we wanted.
Well, absolutely. So, right after West Coast Finch Show, actually 2 weeks after West Coast Finch Show, like the Midwest AFA chapter, we hold our big fall golf tournament / our annual meeting / all that there at the Shangri-La in just outside of Tulsa. But also on that same weekend, Ohio's having their event. Carolina by the Seas is having their event. So it's also a big time of the year for all these regional AFA chapters to host their events as well.
Busy times. Hopefully we'll see everybody there, though.
Yeah, I can't wait. So we will be at West Coast Finch Show, and then we're going to return home, and then we will see everyone. Then the next show would be, well, AFA University in November, but then Finch Tech February at Salt Lake City. I tell you,
It's going to be
Caleb, were you at the last Salt Lake City Finch Tech?
Yep.
What a great place.
What a great place. We had a scooter gang. That was a lot of fun.
Did you really?
Yep.
Well, that's a nice thing. So I wasn't at the last one. So we went to the mid-year meetings this year, the AFA mid-year meetings. And while there, actually Josh Rand took us on in, that was in Park City. So Josh took us on into Salt Lake City, kind of showed us around Salt Palace, the convention center there, showed us kind of the area. Everything is right there.
It's
it seems like there's
a city.
Yeah, there's like a dozen hotels. There's obviously the convention center. There's like a mall that's right across the street. There's all this dining. Like literally, once you get there, and most of the hotels I'm sure have airport shuttles. There's even a rail line, like a metro rail line that runs right through there. So even if you wanted to go wherever else you wanted to go, it's all right there. So I could understand a scooter gang. This might be the first show we don't rent a vehicle at, just because once you get there in the vicinity, it's all right there.
I wouldn't rent one. We didn't. Yeah. We walked and drove scooters everywhere. It's such a small town. Yeah. Yeah,
that's the thing, and it's all, like I said, it's all right there. And they are used to moving large amounts of people. So it's right. There's a religious center right there. Where they'll host an annual meeting. It's like 30,000 people show up for this meeting. Wow. And so they're used to moving large amounts of people all around easily, which is why everything is kind of compact in that one area so that they don't have to worry about transit for all these folks. I mean, can you imagine 30,000 rental cars? Or if you're coming in family groups, it's still 10,000 vehicles. So, yeah. Used to moving large amounts of people around. I mean, and everything. The hotels ranged from like Holiday Inn Express all the way through like Hyatt Regency. I mean, it was a wide variety of hotels as well. So
it'll be a good show. It will be good, and hopefully it's not too much snow on the ground, and it'll be fun. There's some good food there, man. There's some basement places. You go down to the lower level to eat, man. There's some good restaurants there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was talking to Josh about that, about snow. I was like, man, February in Salt Lake City, like, what are the chances it's not going to snow? Like, I feel like we've got a better chance of snow than not. And he's like, man, it could snow a foot, and these sidewalks and roads would be clear the next morning. He's like, it's just what we do. We're used to receiving massive amounts of snow. They're right there by the mountains, right off the Salt Lake. So he's
like Canada. You go to Canada with 3 feet of snow on the ground, and it's not even a factor.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is they've got all the equipment to clear and to move and to do all that. So he's like, I understand what you're thinking, but for you, a foot of snow is a monumental event. For us, it's like a Tuesday. So he's like, we'll just move it and move on with our lives. So anyway, got a bunch of shows coming up. Very excited to see everybody there. Caleb, is there anything we didn't cover? I know we were going to talk about election year and how that affects companies, but we're already almost an hour and a half into this.
It's about something. Yeah, I think everybody knows an election year is going to affect everybody. So, it affects the economy in various ways. Every time there's an election, that's pretty worldwide. So stand strong and keep doing what works and stop doing what doesn't work. And that's it.
Yep. We've had a pretty strong year this year.
You've had a what year?
We had a pretty strong year this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry.
I'm waiting.
I was just gonna say when we look at previous year comparables, we're
Yeah.
having a very strong year.
Yeah, I think most people are that are established. I think the people that get hit the most in these type of economies, when people just take a little more thoughtfulness.
Nope. He warned us it might happen. We lost Caleb. Let me shout out to a few of you guys. Mark Harila says, every time I go to a show, I try to power through the first day to see things I haven't seen or find the guys I want to talk to on day 2. I have yet to make it all the way through the first day. Mark, it sounds like you and I are on the same page there. It's always something I strive for, but it rarely happens that plan goes to plan. But at least by having a plan, you make it through part of the show in order before the wheels fall off. Vero Fitz, how's it going? Shout out to Joe. Ordered some mag latches. Absolutely. And they arrived within 2 days. Fast shipping, easy to use website. Thanks again, Ozark. Thanks again to Vero Fence. No, I'm glad you had a great experience. And I think I like to hope and like to think that is our standard. I mean, I don't hope that is our standard, but I like to hope that we achieve that standard consistently and regularly in every single order. Kyle Baker, what's up, Kyle? Come to Waterton, New York if you want snow. No thanks. I don't. I believe it's a great place. I believe that if you're there, it's bound to be a great place. But I'm not built for snow. I don't enjoy snow. I enjoy beaches over snow. Everyone's different, but that's kind of my speed. I can relate with the snowbirds. Like I love being in places until it gets cold, and then I like to go to other places that aren't cold anymore. Oh. We might have Caleb back with us. Let's see. Caleb, how are you?
Back on the iPhone. Great.
All right.
Yeah. Before my computer so rudely cut me off, all I was saying was I think the guys that get hurt the worst, or the companies that get hurt the worst, and when people become a little more thoughtful about their spending, is just the people who maybe didn't answer the phone as good as they should have. Maybe the people who didn't put in the infrastructure or maybe the advertising that they needed. Mm-hmm. And so they find themselves just getting less leads. And so I think this is the tide that comes and goes, and this is just part of it. And if you are one of those guys, simple fix, just start with the website, start with the answering the phone, start with setting your voicemail to say, this is a, so-and-so company, instead of, I'm sorry, this person has not set up a voicemail. Do the basic things, and this will pass, and then you'll be ready for the next one, because they're going to keep coming.
I think a lot of what we're seeing right now are the companies that maybe started during COVID era, the COVID years, when you just didn't need to have that muscle, the marketing muscle, or times were just different as in terms of what expectations were from the customers. Now it feels like everyone's getting back to pre-pandemic expectations. To your point, answering the phone or having someone that answers the phone, and just customer service in general, marketing, because now we've got more fence companies now than, at least in our market, than we've ever had. So marketing's becoming very important. During the COVID years, you experienced this, I'm sure, where you really didn't even have to market at all, and you still fell into work. Now we're getting back to, you've got to go find your customers. They're not just all flooding to kick down your door, sort of thing.
Well, yeah, you're the only guy who answered the phone. You're hired.
Yeah, right. Hey, can you get here? Yes. Will you not, just absolutely rob me blind? Yes. Well, then it sounds like you're the guy for me.
Do business. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But yeah, this is, man, what a great way to learn it, and because we're learning without the economy crashing. There's some in past, there's been times that were really hit hard. And so I think we're just seeing more behavior like it was pre-COVID, but still very strong. It's still a strong economy compared to, 08, to 2013, so that was a different time and different era. And this, I feel, stronger. So.
Well, and listening to financial podcasts, that's what they're saying is GDP is still strong. Gross domestic product we're still producing a lot of stuff. This is not the housing crisis of 08, right? That really crashed everyone. It really dried up business. This was, what everyone's calling it is a soft landing. right? We had inflation really ran away. Now inflation's being drawn down. Unemployment's getting back towards normal. I guess not normal yet, but it's getting back towards normal. I mean, think about the job market there for a while. It was Wild West as to you saw a certain segment of the employment market that just jumped, paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. Now there's a little bit more stability in the market.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
it's
a lot
getting
of
back
tech.
towards normal.
We're seeing a lot of tech people that were making crazy salaries they've lost their jobs, and so that sucks,
Yeah.
But that's the way it is, man. I guess when you have those booms, you got to offer huge salaries to get people to come, and then when the money's gone, you got to lay a ton of people off that are used to making a ton of money and maybe weren't prepared for it. So hopefully,
the market's always correct.
Yeah,
one way or the other. The pendulum always swings. You just got to figure out where the pendulum is at any given moment. This is a familiar face. Mark Olson says, "Hola, Fence fanatics."
I watched your video the other day, Mark. With those U.S. Forest Service panels, those temporary bracing. That's pretty cool. I've never seen that. I don't know that I would use it on the farm, but I think for what it was designed for, man, that's pretty cool stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. You guys should follow the SWI Fence channel or SWI Fence channel.
The chain, I've never seen that. We never used. There were so many cool things there. The chain winch, basically is a winch with a chain that works on chain links, and then the stretcher, the panel stretcher that was you drove the stakes in and it squeezed down on it. I'm gonna have to order that stuff. I have property and want to put fence up, and I thought that's way better than 2x4s bolting them together. So I love the video. There's a lot of cool stuff on there.
Absolutely, guys. Check out SWI Fence for some great content right here on YouTube. Or if you're watching on Facebook, head over to YouTube and check them out there. All right, Caleb, let's start landing the plane. And we're a solid hour and a half into this.
Yep.
So I appreciate you making time on a Saturday to come on and talk with the Fence fam about fence stain.
Certainly, man. Glad to do it. If anybody needs help staining, wants to get in the business, holler at us. We're happy to hold your hand and walk you through it. And appreciate you, Joe, for having us on. And
of course,
talk to you on the next one.
All right, guys, no show next week as next Saturday, we will be at the West Coast Fence Show. Hope to see you guys there. If you are there, come up and say hello. Always look forward to seeing you guys. For now, Joe Everest, the fence expert, Caleb Roth with Expert Professional Wood Care Products. Reminding you that good fences make good neighbors.
Make good neighbors.
Especially if you stain it really well.
That's right. No overspray.
That's right. All right, guys, we will see you next time.